And we're live. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, we have made it to final podcast episode of 2024. This is, I believe, episode number 8. I'm so proud of us
I'm
for just
so proud of us.
we've been consistent. We've posted every single week.
Yes.
And we're here to stay, podcasters, okay? We're here to stay.
My favorite moment is from Christmas. My family members were like, "Oh my God, I listened to the podcast." And I'm like,
Oh
"Thank
my
you so
God,
much for
cute.
being the only people to listen to the podcast."
Facts. Thank you so much to our friends and family who support and listen. Same, my mom, because I was up at my sister's house and I came back to like my parents to record, and I was like, peace out, I gotta go record the podcast. And I learned something this week that you and my mom are on speaking terms.
We are.
Oh my God. I died. Because like she mentioned, so my birthday is like, right before, a little bit before Christmas, and I came home and she gave me some gifts, and she was like, yeah, like Sam had a little help with these.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, like thanks, Sam. Like I said it like my sister's name is Sam as well. And so I was like, oh, like, okay, thanks, Sam. She was like, no, like Samantha, your co-host. I was like, oh my God, you guys speak. That is so funny.
How did
She's
she
like, yeah,
do? How did she do
text.
on your gifts?
Fabulous.
Okay, good.
I love my blue earmuffs from Anthropology.
Did you
and
like them?
They're so cute.
Okay, good.
And I'm heading to Denver here in a couple days, and they will get great use. I'm so excited. I've got my ski sweater on, and then I'll put my little blue earmuffs on, and I'll be ready to go skiing.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, I was like,
I stalked your TikTok page.
Yeah, I have to tell Sam.
I stalked your page because she was like, what do I do? And I was like, oh my God, I know Taylor so well. But like, one thing about Taylor is if she likes it, she buys it. Like, she literally is the 7 Rings song. Like, she wants it, she gets it. Like, there's no like planning. So like, you can't go on Taylor's TikTok page and be like, wow, that looks really cute. And she has that on her wish list because she buys it for herself.
I do. Yeah, nothing is like a mystery. Nothing is on the wanted list. I pretty much immediately buy anything I want. But thank you for helping her. And that is like, it's always so sweet when you're like friends talk with your parents, because it's like different now that I don't live near home. Like my mom only hears about my long distance like friends who live with me in Texas through me. And so now that you guys are chatting, it's so funny to me.
All right,
Leslie, and
let's do our intro to our podcast that we have this week. I know you're really excited about yours.
I'm like excited just because it's like another podcast, 2 podcasts that I listen to like pretty regularly. But yeah, this week has been pretty dry in terms of like fun news.
Yeah.
Like the last week of the year is always dry, right?
Yeah.
Like no major pop culture stories come out.
No reality TV episodes released this week. Yeah.
No, nothing.
Really dry.
Like literally the only thing that's on everybody's like radar is like Squid Games 2.
Yes.
is out.
Yes. I haven't started yet, so no spoilers, please.
No spoilers. I'm on episode 1, but I want enough of a spoiler to know if it's worth watching. Like, I'm on break. I'm not going back to work until January 6th. So like, if I'm gonna be consuming content, I have so much time to consume content right now, but like I want it to be good. So if anybody has watched it,
I heard that there was like one character, and this isn't spoilers because I haven't seen it yet, but I heard there's one character that makes it fully worth it.
Ooh, okay.
That's all I've heard is because they like said the name, and obviously I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know who it is. But they're like, this whole series is worth it because of this person. So I'm excited. Okay. I mean, it's really cool that we watched. That was what, during COVID, or was it post-COVID?
Was it during?
I don't even know.
COVID?
I just remember like it was such a weird thing to have it come out and be released, and everyone was like, because it was Korean, right? It was fully in Korean, and so it's such a scary concept. It's like Hunger Games.
I know.
It really is.
Like it's the same type of like pit in your stomach feeling as you watch it as you do with like Black Mirror.
Yes.
But like It's amazing. Like
Absolutely.
it's worth the hype. I'm very excited to watch. But
Yeah.
okay, I am gonna for sure binge watch that after we record. But I am in the spirit of the new year going to be talking about Dear Gabby, her
Okay.
podcast. She is a part of like the Dear Media group. This episode is how to manifest exactly what you want in 2025. Ditch your resolutions for this instead. And then my next podcast, Dear Chelsea Handler's podcast, which I love, subscribe to, and listen pretty much week over week, but haven't talked about it yet. It was a minisode this week called Dating Your Friend's Ex with Aminah, Imani, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Sydnee Washington, and Marie Faustin. It was just like a group of like 4 powerhouse women comedians, and it was like a really cute little episode. So yeah,
Okay.
what about you? Give me a teaser.
I finally wanted to cover Caleb Hearon and his
Oh,
podcast.
it's about time.
So true with Caleb Hearon, and it's called Josh Sharp is in His Body. And it was just a little like hangout session with another, he's an actor from the
Okay.
movie Dix the Musical. And so that was one. And then the other one was She's Not Coming to My House. It's by Emergency Intercom Media with Inya and Drew. Please tell me you've heard of them. You have not heard of them?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this was one of those things I'm like, I hope it's not like Broad City lore, like where I thought you didn't know who they were and you did, but
Yeah.
they are the funniest podcast group. Me and Josh put it on our projector last night and we watched like 3 episodes of them. They're just comedians. They're so funny. So mine was the exact opposite of you. Mine was just comedy this week. No resolutions. But
that's okay.
On my notes for the podcast for the past month has been, let's talk about resolutions. And we haven't talked about them once.
Well, I got you. I can like segue into that. If you want. But oh my god, wait, one update before we get into it. I should have said this at the top of the episode. But so I didn't tell you about like the travel day from hell I had coming back home.
No.
I went 4 days without my bags because American Airlines, my flight was delayed by 6 hours. I was in the airport. Nobody was able to leave out of Austin or get into Dallas for like hours. My flight was supposed to land at 6. That flight didn't get in until 1 in the morning. And so in the airport, I quickly like, thank God for Capital One Venture X plug. If you want that credit card and you want a referral to get like a ton of extra bonus or points, go use the link in my TikTok or Instagram bio. But they were like, you know how normally credit card will be like, yeah, we'll like help you get on another flight, but it has to be the same airline. They got me on a Delta flight, thank God. And then Delta was able to like help me get my bags from that American Airlines flight. But because I live so far from the airport, like my parents, I had to go 4 days without my bags. So that is why I look the way I look and am breaking out. It was miserable. So yeah.
Oh no.
I will never be going on American Airlines ever again. I've only ever been dirty when I've gone on them.
I haven't. The only bad experience I've had with an airline was Southwest. And I have their credit card, so I fly them anyways. Every single week, I'm like, not every single week, but every single flight, I'm like, I'm never doing Southwest again. And then I book it.
And then you do. I know, totally. Well, to like, I had to get that out of the way because Sam and I like haven't talked at all. We're like, save everything for the podcast. So
you're in Christmas mode right now.
Very much Christmas mode, very much rot mode, completely rot mode. But to try and like get a little bit of like motivation into us, Dear Gabby, she is, I feel like, in a very well-known talking about like manifestation in like the influencer space. I feel like many influencers like go to Gabby for advice. She has a couple of books. She like is a part of like the Dear Media, you know, umbrella, and so she just like an amazing follow. Highly recommend. Every New Year she does like a 21-day manifesting challenge, and I actually did it this last year and credit it to like seriously how honestly well of a year I have had. So basically what she talks about, couple things to just like touch on, is talking about setting intentions versus resolutions. Intentions imply we are ready to receive something versus resolutions imply that we have to change something, or like there's pressure if you don't do this, if you don't fail. 80% of resolutions fail after February 1st, which I thought was like such an interesting like statistic. And I just think that's like a simple mindset shift. Like, no resolutions, intentions. Like, what are your intentions for the year? It's just like a mini little tweak. And I just think that's like kind of interesting, right?
No, I
Yeah.
definitely do manifestation. Whenever I really want something, I make a video and I talk about why I want it, why I'm going to get it, and why I deserve it. And it's always so funny to look back at the video. Like, I got the TV show and I look back at my video from a year ago and I was like, I need this. This is what I need in my life. And it was just so funny. So I love learning about manifestation and intentions.
Do you post the video anywhere? Or you just like save it in a folder for you to like watch and keep?
I just save it in a folder. And it's like one of those cute moments where you're like, oh, I really wanted this and I ended up getting it. And like also if I don't get it, I just like it was cute and it led me on a different path, and that's what I think of it as.
Perfect thing to touch on, because she talked about that in this episode, is like as you are basically like the formula to writing down your intentions are basically like declaring your desires and having a desire statement. And after every desire or intention you write down, I desire to manifest X, Y, and Z, and I welcome this or something better. So exactly like you said, if you watch that video back and you don't get that, but you get something better, like putting that out into the universe is like a huge thing. And I thought that was like really interesting. So she talks a lot about how like remembering the universe is like an algorithm, having like a clear desire and then like affirming it's either this or something better gives like the universe like clarity on like stating out into the world what you want. Here's my intention, here's what I'm asking for, but then like to let it go. So that means like write it down on a piece of paper and keep it in a journal. Write it down and like maybe do like a super woo-woo like, you know, little ceremony and like burn it or bury it or something like that. But like be really clear, but like don't be so controlling, because sometimes when you're so controlling about what you want, you're like not allowing the universe to like basically send you like a different message of, again, the whole this or something better. If you're like, wow, I never ended up getting this one thing, but the universe maybe actually put something better into your lap. It was just like, it was super interesting. She has like such a great way to like point things out. But I love in this episode how she talked about like the 3 biggest things I feel like people are always making resolutions or intentions about: money, love, or a new job. And she had some ideas around it. So if you want to manifest more money, manifest abundance versus money.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. If you want to manifest more money, by telling the universe you want to manifest more abundance means maybe something like a friend buys you coffee one day, or you get more free time in your calendar, and that free time, you know, more abundance of time would lead to more time for you to like start that side hustle to get more money. She's just like, I think you like stop yourself and you're able to be like a lot more magnetic to more ways of getting money. If you say like, I want to be more abundant, then like just directly like, I want more money. With love, she said the best way to create more love, or the best way to get romantic love is to create more love in your life. Friends, a pet, you know, listening to music that you really love, like going to a concert. Like love is like a vibration essentially. And it like really boomerang. So like the more love you put out into the world, the more you're going to like get back.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And then the last one was about a job. Like if you really want to manifest a change in your career, you can't manifest that if you currently hate the job that is existing, because that's essentially sending a signal to the universe of like asking for something yet like being so negative about that thing you're asking for. So focus on the things existing in your job that you really like and that are thriving. Maybe it's as small as like where your job is, like the area it's next to a coffee shop you like. Focus on that. Like, I really, you know, universe, like I love the area that I work, or I love this one specific coworker. So yeah, I thought that was super interesting. All that to say, I love the idea of intentions versus resolutions. So yeah, that was pretty much that on that with that podcast episode.
I love it. I guess my one thing I want in life is for this podcast to be sponsored by Sonic. Can't even see the logo, Sonic. That's my
Absolutely,
only
Sonic,
goal.
please.
I want a Paris and Nicole collab, like what they did. I want my own drink named after me. That's my only goal right now in life.
All of that to say, what does Sonic have? Like what are their like the famous names? It's not the Blizzard, that's Dairy Queen.
The Blast.
Sonic Blast.
Sonic
Yes.
Blast.
And all of that to say Blast.
I love it. I love it. That's all I could ask for.
Amazing. Okay, love it. Well,
all right.
Do you wanna hop into one of yours?
Let's talk about emergency intercom.
Let's do it. Get me up to speed. I think I've got some things to learn.
Okay, so this podcast has a lot of lore, and I tried to look up the Reddit, and everyone is just clowning in that Reddit. It was hilarious because you can't learn anything on the Reddit, so do not go on there if you want to learn anything about it.
Got it.
Everyone is just making up like
I avoid Reddit at all costs, by the way.
No, it's like everyone's like making up like all these rumors and stuff, and it's just so funny because the real fans, you can tell like people are like the real fans because they're making jokes, and the people that want to be in the fandom are like, no, I'm being serious, is that real? And they're like, absolutely. And it's like, that is not real. There's no way. But basically they are just two comedians. They used to be a part of Tiny Meat Gang, Cody Ko's company.
Wait, that was some tea that happened over the holiday. Cody Ko making a comeback. Did you see that?
I will not comment on that.
Got it. Okay, moving on.
All of that to say. So their little like promo, it says there's no emergency, but there is an intense need for attention. So maybe listen up. And it's just them sitting there talking. It's two best friends, and they started off the podcast talking about like carbon monoxide poisoning fears. Like it's just such a silly podcast. And then it goes straight into the fact that aliens are in their flop era. The drones in New Jersey, no one cares about. Flop era for aliens. Like they should have came sooner. We just have too many things going on in our lives. Like, of course, like they were talking about like when they come, we're all going to be gagged and really scared. But
totally,
the whole
they kind of are in their flop. I'll give them that.
No one
for
cares.
Sure. Like nobody really cares anymore.
No one cares. And they like Taylor. I wanted to do a live watch of this because they were like, we should start a pop culture podcast, but it would basically just be them accidentally spreading rumors.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a podcast about other podcasts.
No.
I was going to say, get in line.
No. So it was so funny because they were talking about Camila Cabello and they could not figure out what group she came from. And so Drew was like, no, they're definitely from 5 Seconds of Summer, like Five Sauce. That is Five Sauce. And Enya was like, no, it's called like Vibe Girls or something. They were like arguing over this. And
I seriously, right now, like, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Fifth Harmony.
Oh my God.
But they were like going on. This was like a 10-minute segment of them just getting every person like their name wrong. Like they could barely pronounce Camila Cabello. They couldn't figure out what group she came from.
I love that. Spread fake news.
It was like so funny. They were like, we're just gonna start a podcast and talk about like all pop culture, but it's like completely wrong. And then Taylor was laughing this whole podcast. Because sometimes with podcasts, I just put it in like 1x or 1.5 speed because it's just like we're yapping a little bit too much, you know? I listened to this episode, came home, put it on my projector, watched it again. They talked about in 5 years, we're probably going to get a story time from the kid that fell in the Harambe enclosure.
Oh my God. And if we don't, that's what the world needs. A tell-all. Where is he now? What has he been doing?
It was so funny. And they were talking about like, I don't know, they're just so relatable. And it's funny because they just don't care. And I hope that like our podcast comes off as that because like we talk about whatever we want. And they like go into the fact that they're obsessed with tornadoes. And like if you put a still shot of a tornado, they can name probably what tornado it was and where it came from.
That's such a niche
that's
passion.
Literally me. I could probably like me and Josh were like, I should play this game, like put up a still shot of a tornado and see if I can guess which one it was.
See, I find that offensive because you are like getting into my culture of tornadoes, like, yet you won't come home and step foot in
No,
Nebraska with me. Like,
no.
when you think of tornadoes, you think of what? Literally Nebraska, where there's tornadoes all the time. Okay,
But
okay.
they were like talking about, I guess there was a tornado, quote unquote, in San Francisco. And they were like, if you would see the tornadoes that we've seen back at home, that was not a tornado. And they were talking about like they should just go on the Weather Channel and just bash tornadoes and like rank them. And
That's
it's
so funny.
it's such a stupid and not even an offensive way. Like it's just a funny podcast. And they talk about like the the title is She's Not Coming to My House. And I've been trying to get you on this lore, Taylor, of Ash Trevino and Shoddy Bay and Santos, Wilito. You have not.
You're our resident at the All That to Say podcast who like understands that. It's slowly trickling onto my feed
It
because
is.
of
Oh
you.
my
The
God.
sounds. Like I feel like everybody's using their
Yes.
sounds,
Yeah. So like Ash talking about the Airbnb and she's like, if I can't get an Airbnb, I'm gonna stay at Shoddy Bay's house. And then Shoddy
and
Bay
she's like,
goes, she's
no.
not coming to my house. And
Right.
it's so funny. I am on that lore. And so all of that to say, it's such a great podcast. I really think that you should watch it. I would love to do a live like reaction, like how they back in the day on YouTube used to do, because
Yeah.
this podcast was just like here, there, like an ADHD dream. They just kept
ADHD dream.
switching episodes and ideas, and they had all of this like lore. If you are not on brain rot TikTok, that you might not understand, like the just vote, just vote. Nina,
Oh,
Nina.
I'm
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. And so it was so it's such a fun thing to watch. And honestly, like I would do a watch party of the like this episode in particular. So
I think that's really funny. Yeah, no, the Nina video, like I watch that video at least like once a quarter. Like it's like
it's
one of the funniest videos to me
it's
ever.
so funny.
Oh my God, Sam, I just realized my headphones aren't plugged in. I feel like that's okay.
I can
You don't
hear
have
you
headphones.
fine.
Yeah. Okay. I hope it's
I
fine,
can hear
but
you fine.
that's kind of like a like those type of podcasts are perfect because it's like especially if you're so ingrained in like the comedians and like love them, you just like
Yeah.
feel like you're hanging out with like your besties. And
It's so good.
that is truly how I feel about like Chelsea Handler and like her podcast. That's like 100%. I just feel like I'm like listening to my bestie all the time.
Well, we should go
So
into yours because they're like in a group in that one too, right?
yes.
Okay.
So Chelsea Handler, her Dear Chelsea, I'm gonna cover her little mini episode this week again. And she has guests on. So basically the format is like similar in the name, Dear Chelsea. Like has amazing guests, fantastic topics, and usually has like a couple of like email write-in questions and then like live callers
Okay.
asking Chelsea for advice. So like a random me, I'll call in like, Chelsea, I need advice on like this situation with my friend. And like on the other end will be like Michelle Obama. Be like, hey, I'm like the guest this week. Like it's like always so funny when people pop on because they have no idea who Chelsea's guests are going to be. And they're always like major guests. So this episode in particular, she brought on like 3 of her good like comedian friends. And it was just like a little mini one. Chelsea has like a lot of background with, being like, how do I say this? Advocate is like maybe a stretch, but being someone active in Hollywood who like isn't afraid to go there and isn't afraid to get into politics is, she has like a documentary that came out about like white privilege. She talks about therapy a lot. Like she's just one of those celebrities who isn't afraid to like get into like the tricky topics, but that makes for like a really good person to like give advice, like she's a lot more well-rounded than I would say. Like a lot of comedians, especially if you do like any improv or something like that, like you have to be in on topics. That's what people say about Caleb Hearon, who you're going to talk about, is
Love
like
him.
they love him because he's so quick.
Yeah.
He's so quick with the current events, the topics, but that's because he's like a genuinely intelligent person.
Yes.
And I feel that way about Chelsea Handler too. So, some questions were thrown around and it was just funny because, given it was like a group of 4 comedian friends, one of the topics was about like thoughts on lending friends money, which is interesting to listen to like
Ooh.
for very successful comedians talk about, like lending money, you
Yeah.
know, to like friends. But
Yeah.
Chelsea got a voice memo from a friend who she like barely stays in touch with, asking for 175 grand just this week. Like,
Oh no.
imagine. I feel like that's something that like famous people probably deal with a lot. People coming out of the woodwork, you know, from
Yeah.
like your past lives
Yeah.
and asking for stuff like that. And so yeah, basically they like all went around and were like, go to the bank. Like literally go to the bank. That's how you can like get money. If you lend money, and this is I've always said it, if you lend someone money, you have to lend money with the intention that you are never seeing that money again.
I was
Like
just gonna say that same
truly.
advice. Yeah.
Yep.
I would think
Yep.
so too.
I know, that's it. Like you definitely can expect to get it back. But yeah, they were like just talking about like you know, just funny things around like drama, like how much is too much drama before you actually take a step back and like a friendship, you know? And like the whole thing I think is like, are you laughing with each other or are you like laughing at each other kind of a thing?
Mhm.
And that's when you start to like draw the line a little bit.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's something I've learned with our friendship and like some of my other friends. I feel like I've never had like, you know, I do have like really funny friends, but when it comes to like our dynamic, you've really taught that in me of how to like dish and receive in like a friendship, but in like the most healthy, fun way. And I
Yes.
feel like that's like something comedians do, right? They're like, they roast each other, they're like really quick with it. And I've never considered myself like quick with like burning someone or like comebacks. But you've helped bring that out of me. Like I feel like you've helped make me kind of like a funnier person. But it's like never offensive when we like joke with each
I
other.
I
So
would
all
say
that to
that's my
say,
love
yeah,
language. I just think that,
that is.
especially with certain people, like I obviously have that boundary. If I've gone too far, I tell all my
Yeah.
friends, just tell me straight up. But I love being able to joke with my friends, and that's what I know of a true sign is if I can joke with you. And I know that's like the silliest thing to want in a friendship, but I've had friendships where it got to the point where I felt like I was the joke, not what I was saying.
Oh my God, that's deep.
I mean, really, like I
Yeah.
had a friend that I just it got to the point like I would look at them when they would laugh and I'd be like, I don't feel like you're laughing about what I just said. I feel like you're
You're like
laughing at
laughing
me.
at me, not with me.
Yes.
That's exactly what they were talking about, is
Mhm.
like towing that line. I think that makes sense as like a love language.
Oh
When you're
yeah.
able to joke with someone, you get past like surface level, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, all that to say, I love Chelsea Handler and I genuinely like recommend it for just some like honestly amazing advice and like amazing guest appearances.
Love
So
it.
from one comedian to our quite literally like new favorite comedian, I need to hear about the Caleb episode.
We both mutually love him. And it's so funny because there's so many things that I realized doing this podcast that we both didn't know that we mutually share, like Caleb.
Yes.
And he did a new episode with Josh Sharp. And Josh Sharp is a comedian. He was in the movie Dicks, the musical.
Yep. Okay.
There were some topics that they talked about that I feel like would be great conversations with you. The first thing that they talk about is the big introduction for your plus one. So you have a new
Mm.
friend, you've been hyping them up to your group or whatever it is. What a big deal it is to set the tone, to introduce them the first time and make sure it goes perfect.
Yeah.
And they talk about like the review the next morning that you get from your friends.
Oh my God.
It's
It
so
is,
funny.
yeah, totally,
It's like a whole
totally.
timeline and process. And I was just busting out laughing because I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I do this. Like, you literally set the stage.
All the time.
Like, you're telling your friends this person is hilarious or kind hearted, whatever their like adjectives are, right? And then finally,
Yep.
the big day comes. Everyone involved is nervous. The old friends are like, is this person like a good person, good friend, whatever?
Do they live up to the hype?
Yes, did they live up
Truly.
to the hype? And so they were just like laughing about like how they've always done these introductions and like most of the time it goes great. And so why do we stress about that? Because I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
very rare circumstances, especially now at the age that we're getting close to our 30s. I feel like I have a way better judge of character than my younger 20s.
Totally,
And
totally.
so I don't really have that fear anymore of like, wow, this person is not gonna mesh well.
vibe with the group or
No.
anything like that. No. And that's what, like, I've loved about, like, introducing our, like, friend groups to each other, but it is, like, it's something I feel like those are, like, some of my favorite moments in life is, like, being a connector, but
Yes.
I stew on it. I stew on it. I hype it up in my head. I paint, like, a picture of exactly how the night is gonna be, like, the agenda down to the hour,
Yep.
down to, like, you know, are we going to the right place with the right vibe, with the right food, with, like, the right, you know, is it gonna be too loud with, like, you know, are we not gonna be able to talk? Like, I stew on it,
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
right, it always ends up working out perfect.
Yes. It was so funny. They were just, like, talking about their moments with that, and, so that was, like, one topic, and then they talked about how I was dying laughing at this because they were talking about the haters. They were talking about
Okay.
how they both have been in movies. So Caleb was just in Sweethearts, which I haven't seen yet
Right.
because I don't have HBO Max. And Josh Sharp was in Dix the Musical. And they were just talking about how people say, I don't care about the hate. The hate is whatever, like, screw you. But then, like, it's what they obsess over. And, like, they respond and or they, like, post it. And, like, Caleb was talking about how he reposted a hate comment on Sweethearts, and it said, Caleb, please put Caleb in more movies immediately. He's almost 40. And Caleb was like dying laughing. Like, he had the tweet or whatever it was memorized to the T. He was like, I'm
Yeah.
also not close to 40. I'm in my 20s. And so I just thought it was so funny because their reaction, of course, were like, oh, I don't care. The hate is whatever. Like, we've all gotten hate
Right.
online, especially with how accessible it is to get hated on now with
Mhm.
TikTok and Instagram. And so we're always like, no, I don't care about the hate. But it's like, do you remember that one comment someone said?
No, everybody's obsessed. Like, everybody's obsessed with what the haters think and say. Like, no matter how much, yeah, it always boils down to, like, yeah, what are the negative things being said? Completely.
So that was funny. And then the last topic I think I wanted to bring up because you're back home in Nebraska. They talk about
Mhm.
mirroring, and it's when you go to a certain place. So, like, you're back
Mhm.
home in Nebraska. Do you feel like
Yep.
your accent has gotten stronger?
Oh, mirroring the people you're
Yep.
around. Oh, it's like it's real. I'm like 5 to 4 days. Well, how many days have I been here? 5 or 6, I think. And yeah, I noticed like little habits, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like going back to my usual Nebraska self.
Yeah. Oh
100%.
yeah.
Yes.
So they were talking about it because Josh Sharp, he's from the South, and Caleb is from not deep South, but I'm pretty sure he is from.
No, I'm pretty sure he grew up in Kansas
Is
City.
that where? Okay, yes, Kansas City,
Yeah.
yes. But
Yep.
they were just talking about how, like, Caleb lives in LA now, and he
Mhm.
talks a certain way in LA versus when he goes back
Yep.
home. And it just reminded me of,
Completely.
like, when I go back to Arizona State in, like, my college town, I get straight into my Valley Girl voice and I say like a lot. And it's really hard
Mhm.
for me to get out of it once I get back to Austin. And I don't know. It was like, it's not like one of those deep topics. This whole podcast, basically, all that to say, was not anything like too deep. But the one thing I did want to note, Caleb is just an amazing podcaster because he creates such a safe space for um
His
his
guess,
guests. So, like,
right?
they're always joking, 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 and then it goes into like something a little bit deep. And
Yep.
then they go back into joking, and then it goes a little bit deep. Like, every single episode I've watched of him, every single podcast guest has said, "Oh wow, I didn't think we would cover this in the podcast."
Yeah.
And so, like, they were talking about like their upbringings, being queer, all the things with that. And so I
Yeah.
think it was just a really great podcast. I love Caleb. I would love to meet him. I think he's just
Oh my God.
so special, and he's just so quick-witted. And I think
Yep.
seeing the ads for Sweethearts, he really should be in more movies, at least from what I've seen, you know?
Adding that to the content plate, like, I need to see it. And no, you're so right. He is a phenomenal podcaster.
Mhm.
Did you see his podcast with Z-Way? It was obviously on Z-Way's podcast, right?
I saw
Um
clips of it.
he's just so quick, so funny, but you're sorry, the way he like goes in and out of like joke to serious to like knowing the next question. Like, I don't know if that's just like him or he's like very well prepared or has like an amazing team behind him. But no, you're so right. Like, there is not a single episode of Caleb's podcast I haven't watched or listened to with a guest that even I've never heard of that I wasn't like, that was an amazing episode.
Yes.
Like,
it's so good.
good.
I just love listening to him, and I'm happy to see how far he's like grown and come up and like the friends that he's making and the guests that he's had. So just a quick little episode.
I love it. I love it. And this was kind of a quick little episode too, but that's what happens when everybody is taking a break and are just re-releasing podcasts from like our favorite podcast episode from this year or like original air date 23.
Yes.
So I was like combing through so many of those, but
yeah, me too.
Great episode. Okay, love it. Well, thank you to everybody who literally has like tuned in this year, if especially you are like a friend or family. But even some of those, we got some like random comments on YouTube. We've been getting some like, I check our demographics, I check our audience data, and like we've had some interesting ones like trickle in. So, but either way, it's fun, and I just love podcasting with you. So.
More to come for next year for sure.
So much more to come. Okay. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. And okay, all that to say, bye.
Bye.